Welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Secrets of the Fit and Successful podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the 90-day rule. It's a rule that I've applied in my life that has helped me tremendously, and I think it will help you as well. Again, for those of you who are new, a little backstory on me. I grew up as a I grew up aspiring to be a bodybuilder, went through college, trained all 4 years, did the in-person thing, pivoted to online, ended up competing in 3 different shows, did 5 different categories in those 3 different shows, and ended up achieving, I believe, 3 different medals. 3 different medals, something like that. So I did a little bit of time in the bodybuilding realm, got into online personal training as well, became rather successful in that, and then launched a company to help other trainers go online. And I've since then been consistently earning over 6 figures per year. So I know a little bit about the success side. I know a little bit about the health and wellness side, the fit side. So I'm not claiming to be an amazing bodybuilder, and I'm not claiming to be a mega successful millionaire, but I know a little bit enough that I'm hoping that what I share in these episodes can help you as well. So in today's episode, I want to talk to you guys about the 90-day rule. What's making me think about this was when I first started diving into entrepreneurism, I learned 2 things very, very quickly. One, things would excite me extremely quickly. Like I would be totally bought in on an idea extremely fast, and I would want to just take it to the moon. Now, the problem with that is I would also quit things extremely quickly to move to the next thing. So 7 to 30 days in, I would ride the motivational high. And then when the reality that it's going to take a lot of work to make anything successful kicked in, I would jump ship to the next shiny object. So after about 2 years of this, I came to a realization. One, that I'm a direct marketer's absolute dream, right? You just tell me that you're going to make me successful quickly, and that if I don't buy in right now, I'm going to miss out on this opportunity and this offer won't last. And the next thing you know, I am pulling out my credit card, I'm signing up, I'm just handing over gobs of my hard-earned money. So for the direct marketers out there, I am your ideal client. But the other thing that I realized was probably at some level, I had something similar, if not ADHD, where I would just bounce around and I'd be extremely motivated. I would be driven to find success, but that motivation, I would not be consistent in any one line of thinking. Now, I'm not one to put labels on things. I think they can be highly limiting. So I would never label myself with ADHD, and I've never gone to a doctor and have had them told me, hey, you have ADHD. But I couldn't ignore the fact that looking at myself, I definitely was displaying a lot of the symptoms of what you could call ADHD. So to myself, and I think to others even, it started to become kind of obvious, like this was something that I was beginning to struggle with. And for me, I really realized, wow, this has gotten bad because I didn't used to be that way. And so to kind of paint this picture a little better for you, I want to take you back to 15-year-old Will. I was extremely into hockey. Like wake up at 4:30, meticulously plan out my day. I was homeschooled, so I could, just really run my own day. I could finish my classes in 2-3 hours. And I would meticulously plan out my day around multiple trainings, different practices, going to the rink, constantly. I mean, it was 4:30 to 10 p.m. every single day, and I had a sheet where I had it all written out. And one of the things that really just was a strong suit of mine was I had this obviously a very highly developed work ethic because I was very goal oriented. But I was also just more focused on tasks than anyone else I knew. And probably a lot of it was because I was spending so much time pursuing this goal. I wasn't doing as many things like other kids those days. I didn't play PlayStation all day. I didn't have a phone until I, started working. So I didn't have as many distractions to pull me away. So I could become very, very locked into a task for a long period of time. So in fact, I would practice. In hockey, there's 4 main shots. You have a slap shot, a wrist shot, a snap shot, and a backhand shot. I would practice each of those every single day, 1,000 reps. So 300 slap shots, 300 snap shots, 300 wrist shots, and 100 backhand shots. I would practice it. And it wasn't just like, oh, I'm going through the repetitions. No, I would purposely try to get better with each shot, each repetition. And on top of that, I was shooting giant weights, right? I would have these 25-pound plates that I would shoot up and down my driveway to develop strength. And I'm sure I have horrible imbalances in my physique later on in life now, looking back at this, from developing kind of torque and twisting in only one side. But the point being, it was this discipline that I had, and looking back on it, I was like, why do I have such a disconnect now? Why can't I be disciplined in what I'm doing the same way I was disciplined back then? And when I really thought back to it, I wasn't always shooting 1,000 shots a day. I got there over time by just wanting so badly to be better that I started doing the daily disciplines, and eventually those 1,000 reps per day, it just became a non-negotiable. It became a daily discipline that I would do every single day. And it wasn't because I was telling myself I had to. It was because I was so excited about getting a little bit better. And when I would start to see it, when I started being better than most of my peers, when I started leading the league in scoring, when I started leading my team, being promoted to captain, that's when I started realizing, oh, wow, these repetitions, when done consistently, have results. And that allowed me to kind of see that I was improving and measure my growth. And all of a sudden, the work wasn't work anymore. I was excited to wake up. I was excited to go through those shots because I was just getting better. I wasn't working. So kind of thinking back to my current situation, this kind of led me to realize something important, which was success is never a secret hack or some revolutionary new method. Like, you can get results from those hacks or methods, but only when they're applied to something that's already existing. So I would change up my shot from time to time. I would try a new tip or a new hack that would make it faster or quicker, or more accurate. And I would have to, break down my old patterns and kind of have a worse shot for a while and be worse at it while I rebuilt it. But then I would have a more efficient or more powerful or more dynamic shot after I worked it back up. And now what I began to realize was there were other guys who I talked to who were like, oh, I'm trying this new thing or this and that. They would try the same hack and have no measurable results or increase. And I would see insane increases. But it's because I was applying it to the 1,000 reps I was doing every single day. I already had the daily discipline in place. When I applied the get rich quick hack for me as a hockey player, which was the, increase your snapshot speed or, have your wrist shot go from 60 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour, that directly correlated to results for me because I had the daily disciplines in place already. It wasn't the hack that was creating success. It was the consistency that was already there underlying. And so I think a lot of people get this wrong when they look at what they're doing. They're like, I keep trying all these new things and nothing's working. It's because you keep trying the new things instead of applying those new things to an underlying consistent daily discipline. So I had to ask myself, why in my entrepreneurial journey am I ignoring a lesson that was so valuable that I had already learned years before? Why was I not taking my own advice? Why was I not doing what had already delivered me the most success in my previous endeavors? So the answer was obvious to me, but it was hard to swallow, which was I got lazy. I knew the work that went into getting comfortable doing 1,000 reps of something a day, and I didn't want to do it again because I remember how painful it was to get there. When you do the process, you don't just forget the grind and the hard work. In fact, once you become extremely good at something, and I was extremely good at hockey, and I know I'll be humble, but I'll also speak to where my skill sets were. I was extremely good at hockey. When you get to that level, you also understand how long it took you to get there and how long you have to be an amateur at something and how many reps it takes to become a pro. And so I think understanding that at an acute level made me look for the shortcuts as an entrepreneur. And of course, what did that do? All it did was make me waste those 2 years because I already knew the answer. I was just lying to myself. And so when I realized this, I knew what I had to do. I had to pull out the oldest rule that I had, and it was the rule that got me to where I was at those 1,000 reps. And it was the 90-day rule. Now, if you are currently in a similar situation, you are feeling a similar way, you can't quite seem to consistently fall in love with the process. You have a hard time doing things for an extended period of time. You're always second guessing yourself. You're always worried you're behind, someone's ahead of you, that you're missing something. You have a fear of missing out on doing something that's going to give you the cutting edge. I promise you right now, this method, this rule is the exact thing you need in your life. So here is the 90-day rule. I think it was a Drake. He had his 72-hour rule where he, if anything, evoked emotion in him, or he got angry or upset and he wanted to respond to something, he would make himself wait 72 hours because he realized without emotional control, it wasn't it wasn't a true response to who he was or what he honestly, logically knew he needed to respond. And so giving himself those 72 hours to cool down, to think it through, and not to not feel emotion, but to feel the emotions, let them come and go, acknowledge them, and then respond with the proper response, not the emotionally impulsive response that allowed him to make the best decisions in his career. And so in the same way that the 72 hours allows you to think through your emotions and make that rational decision, the 90-day rule allows you to begin acting first with discipline and logic towards what you want rather than emotional impulses, avoidance, laziness, procrastination. All of those things are just perverse emotions coming out. They are your lack of discipline coming out as emotional excuses that you justify as to why you won't take action. So I'm not here to say that you should not feel emotion. In fact, if you listen closely, I'm telling you the exact opposite. When you, and I see this a lot with guys, right? I don't cry, I don't show emotion, I'm tough, I'm hardened. That's not showing emotion. You're feeling the emotion, you're shoving it down, and do you know what happens? All emotion always comes out eventually. It just comes out differently. If you're sad, if you're upset, if you're frustrated, if you're tired, if you feel hopeless and you shove it down and you don't allow yourself to feel emotion, it comes out as anger. It comes out in other different avenues. Anything that you are suppressing for too long, it's going to come out sideways. It's going to come out in emotions. And the problem with that is, if you learn to use your emotions, if you learn to feel your emotions, you control how they come out, because they will come out one way or another. But if you suppress them, you refuse to acknowledge them, you refuse to become a regulator of your emotions and use them to your advantage, then you become a slave to them. Your emotions make you impulsive. You're impulsive to anger. You're impulsive to lust. You're impulsive to greed. You're impulsive to laziness. Those things are your emotions coming out without you controlling them. When you control your emotions, you get the beautiful benefit of both worlds. You feel and express, but you can also control and you can dictate how you act. And so when you are in control of your emotions, you now have a superpower. The outside world can no longer affect how you act internally, how you feel internally. If you can take it in and acknowledge it and not react impulsively, you get cut off in traffic and you want to yell. When you get cut off in traffic now and you can just take a breath and let it go because it's not worth your time, because it can't affect your internal state, now you have a superpower. So how do you get there? How do you get to a point where emotionally you have self-mastery? It's with this 90-day rule. You take these 90 days and you tell yourself, and I'm going to read this directly from my notes, I am doing these daily disciplines, and I want you to think of 2 to 3, no more, no less, non-negotiables. I would say 3. Let's pick 3. I am going to do these 3 daily disciplines, non-negotiably, regardless of how I feel. In 90 days, I can quit, I can back off, I can take a break, I can change the game plan. But for these next 90 days, nothing short of death will stop me from achieving these daily disciplines. End quote. If you do that, if you commit to something like that for 90 days, you will achieve a level of self-mastery, of self-confidence, and progress and momentum in your life towards your goals that you have probably never felt before. And what's amazing is what happens when you do this. A couple things happen. I believe that this only complements our human design. As humans, we are life incarnate. We are life inside of a body. And life aims only to live more. It is why we are here. You see it in anything. You put anything that's living in an environment, and it will adapt to that environment to try to live more, to bring more life into that environment, to survive longer in that environment. We are alive, and we are trying to live more. And as humans who are creators, right, we can not just exist, but we can create within this reality. And I'm getting a little metaphysical here, a little philosophical, but it's important. We visualize, because we are visual creatures as well. We visualize us living more life through progress. When we see ourselves making progress towards something in our life, we say to ourselves, I can visually see myself living more, becoming more life. And that's powerful. What you're going to find when you realize this is this will massively simplify your life. If my 90-day daily intention or my daily disciplines are posting daily on social media to the platform that I'm doubling down on, starting 20 new intentional conversations every single day, and completing my morning routine without fail at my set time, then guess what? I no longer have to stress about this podcast, making YouTube videos, posting 6 times a day on TikTok, hitting the gym consistently, or eating on an extremely strict diet. If those things don't fall into my 3 daily disciplines, they're not necessary for what I have said success is in these next 90 days. And all of a sudden, the anxiety melts away. The stress melts away. The overwhelm melts away. The depression that you are self-inflicting on yourself by giving yourself way too much to do and not enough time to do it begins to melt away. You're depressed because you convinced yourself you're not living. And I'm not here to say that I'm a doctor or I understand depression, but as someone who's gone through it, I can tell you this much anecdotally. For me, depression was convincing myself I wasn't living because I overwhelmed myself with too much. And in trying to do too much, I saw no progress. And by seeing no progress, I felt as if I wasn't living. And as time passes without feeling like living, you feel more like you are dying. And that, for me, depressed me. When I switched to a 90-day rule and I simplified my life and I focused on 3 things that I would do every day non-negotiably, and I was radical both in my implementation of those things and in my gratitude and in the way I affirmed myself upon completing them every single day, truly feeling successful at the end of the day for having completed those 3 little tasks, however large they may be, I would advise making them small at the beginning. I felt the momentum. I felt the anxiety, the stress, the overwhelm, and the depression start to melt away. And more importantly, I saw progress towards my goals that I had created, that I had aligned those 3 daily disciplines with. I was trying to grow a company that within 1 year made over $100,000 from launch, which is very rare. I set out and I did those disciplines daily. And I'll be honest, I wasn't even perfect. There were many days where I didn't get them done. The 90-day rule, if you do it perfectly, man, you'll be a different person. But if you even get it 90% of the way there, you continue to become a better person and the momentum builds. I'm not saying don't aim for perfection. I'm saying don't stress out if you mess up, just keep going. But I love this because it allows you to go deeper on a couple things in your life rather than shallow on many. It allows you to be consistent in the important things in your life and the important things that will actually bring about that goal you want rather than sporadic on everything. Like I said before, we're designed for progress. We're visual creatures where life itself and life's goal is always more life. So if you carefully choose what you want, you're intentional with it, you know the outcome you'd like to have, and you're choosing 3 things that will help you bring that outcome about. 3 things that you know will bring you closer to that goal every single day if you just do them consistently. and then you act on those 3 daily disciplines to the absolute best of ability, the progress you see will be measurable. And measurable progress is one of the hardest things to stay depressed when you're seeing. So, if you take this a step further and you start to measure what you do daily and you review it weekly, monthly, you will see the tangible results of your discipline. You'll know how to become even better at it. You'll know that it's working. And as you begin to see those results, you realize just how powerful you really are. You can, in your mind, envision something you want and take daily action towards it. And if that daily action is consistent and it is aligned with your end goal, you see progress, and that progress inevitably leads to the desired result after some period of time. So all that is left to ask yourself is, what now is my true intrinsic purpose? Because you can do this 90-day rule as many times as you'd like. Maybe the first time you want to make some money so you can buy something very specific. That's amazing, but guess what? Once you realize that your life is Play-Doh in your hands, that you can mold into anything you want, you begin to ask the deeper questions. Was the car what I wanted? Was the watch what I wanted? Was the vacation what I wanted? Or is there more here that I can bring about? Because now that I know that I can shape my reality any which way I want in a very limited amount of time, if I'm just radically consistent and I apply this rule to my life, what's the real thing that I should be working towards? What's the real purpose of why I'm here? And this is what it results in. If you look closely, you'll see that this isn't a novel idea. In fact, shortly after I came up with this idea in my own head, thinking that I'm a genius and I'm revolutionary, I took a closer look at the corporate world and I realized, everyone does this, and they call them quarters. 90 days is a perfect amount of time. It's a perfect amount of time because 30 days is great, but it's a sprint, month-long challenge, month to remember something. We do it all the time. What is 60 days? Well, 60 days shows that you're resilient, shows that you can do a challenge and then do it again. And that's pretty good. You're a pretty strong individual. But it's in that third month, those last 30 days between 60 and 90, that's where I believe it shifts from a challenge, from being a resilient person, to being a change in your identity. Who are you? At a core, when you do something without missing for 90 days, and you do it intentionally, with purpose, with a goal to get better, you're not the same person on a cellular level that you were when you started. You have rewired your brain to think differently. You have opened up new neural pathways. You have removed bad habits. You have instilled a level of discipline in your life that you have probably never had before. You are altogether a measurably different person. If you were to take a scan of your brain at day 1 and day 90, I can guarantee you it would look different and would fire differently on day 90. You become the person you are portraying in those final 30 days. I never like to say fake it till you make it. I like to say practice it until you perfect it. What does the person who has what you want do? What are the 3 main things that make them successful? Or more importantly, what are the 3 main things they probably did when they were starting out that made them successful? If you can practice with intention and consistency for 90 days what those people did, in the 90th day, in those last 30 days leading to the 90th day, your identity truly begins to shift into someone who is in that class of person. Just like in hockey, the lesson was always there for me. The first and second periods of the game, they always set the stage. You could feel like you were going to win no matter what. You could feel like there was no hope and that you were lost. But that third period, those 60 to 90 minutes, those 60 to 90 days, those last 30 days there, that's where the game's won. That's where your identity is found. That is where the decision is made. Are you a sprinter? Are you resilient? Or is this the new person you're becoming? Because if you can do 90 days consistently and you achieve that new identity, you roll that momentum into another 90 days and another and another. And nothing can stop you. You become a force to be reckoned with. Those 90 days are your buy-in to the table of life free. A life that you're leading, not somebody else. And very few people make it because they won't buy in. They won't give those 90 days their all. They'll quit on day 14. They'll quit on day 55. Some of them will quit on day 70. If you can do 90, you become a different person. It's going to teach you the limited things you should say yes to, the many things you should say no to, and the discipline to do that consistently day in and day out. Whether you are training for a sport like 15-year-old me, whether you are trying to become more consistent in your class schedule and your grades like 20-year-old me, or whether you are trying to launch a business and become a successful entrepreneur like 23-year-old me, this applies to any of you and all of you who are chasing a goal. No skill set, no education, no social status or privilege can beat what you will build. The person who can faithfully employ the 90-day rule in their life is their own master. They are in control of their emotions. They are in control of their actions. And through this, they control their outcomes. You won't be the same person at the end of those 90 days. And like I said, it's beautiful. And I hope you never stop using this 90-day rule, because without it, the structure is easy to get lost. Take it from me. I had seen great success with it. I got cocky. I stopped using it. And it led to some of the hardest periods of my life. Periods in my life I almost didn't make it through by my own choice. But recommitting to it, the anxiety, the stress, the overwhelm, and the depression goes away. And you find that third thing that humans were made for. We were made for progress. We are visual creatures. And we were made to ultimately find a purpose. There is no meaning to your life if you are not searching for your purpose. And so once you realize how to use yourself properly as a tool for creation, in control of their own emotions, you then begin to ask the deeper question: what am I here to do? And in that, you will find your strongest, most disciplined self. You will find your peace. You will find your true happiness. And for the betterment of the world, you will find your purpose.